Hi, I'm Jessica Salaji, publisher of thegeorgiavirtue.com. We're so excited to offer a compilation of videos this election season. The TGV Candidate Spotlight Series is an independent video feature produced with one goal in mind: providing voters with as much information as possible before they head to the polls. There's no agenda, we don't make endorsements, and we aren't beholden to any giant media corporation. The series is produced thanks to our advertisers and the generous donations made to the TGV Sunlight Fund and communities we cover. We extended an offer to all of the candidates seeking office this year, and to ensure the integrity of the questions and in fairness to all the opponents, every interview is recorded prior to the release of the videos in that race. For that reason, candidates who did not agree to an interview prior to the air date for their race will not be featured in this series. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget, you can find more content on this election cycle and much, much more on thegeorgiavirtue.com. Today we're chatting with Brian Pfund, who is a candidate for County Commission in District 2C. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in Bulloch County, and just go from there.
Okay, I'm originally from a little town called Millville. It's right outside of Pittsburgh, PA. It's actually the first borough outside of the city limits. I was born there. My mom and dad still live in the same house I was born in. I left there in '99 and I joined the Army. And the Army, after basic training and advanced training, I got stationed at Fort Stewart. So got to Fort Stewart early April-ish, I guess, 2000, and immediately went to Bosnia with them. Came back, 9/11 happened, I got transferred up to Hunter, so it wasn't a big move. And then I went to Special Operations up there, and I stayed in Savannah my whole career. I got out of the military in 2013, started working at Gulfstream, which I'm still employed there today. I'll hit my 10 years direct here in September. And I lived in Effingham. I bought my first house up in Effingham. It was a little starter house, and it was good, but it started getting real crowded down there. And I met my wife right after I got out of the Army too, and she's working up at Georgia Southern. So we decided, hey, let's go out to the country, and it'll be closer for her. And so we moved out to Bulloch County in December of '21, and so I've called Georgia my home. Actually, next year it'll be. I've lived in Georgia longer than I've ever lived in Pennsylvania, so this is where I've decided to stay.
You're running on the Republican ticket,
Yes.
and the seat is, we have a very conservative county, but local politics is more nonpartisan, when you get to the heart of the issues. So how do you approach the position of county commissioner, and can you talk a little bit about your ideology?
Well, with local politics, I guess it could be almost a double-edged sword. I think it should be easier because you live right around all of the citizens that you're representing, compared to like at the national level where you kind of get a little bit out of touch. So I'd approach it as, I'm a citizen first, and if I get elected, the citizens that elect me, I have to hear from them. I have to get out. I have to know what they want, because that's kind of how I'm going to approach it. Is almost small town, and Bulloch is pretty much a small town. Even though I'm not from here, I've met a lot of people over the years, and everybody knows everybody. And so I think that's the approach, is being open. I'd like to see like town halls, maybe once a quarter or something, where you can get people out. Encourage, it's local politics. I don't think it should be local politics. I think it should be what do we want and what do we need, and then go for there and be the voice of the people. Leave politics out of it. And like you said, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. If you're on a fixed income or if you work, everybody has their needs, and unless you know what those people's needs are, you really can't do your job properly. So I'd like to keep politics out of it and just not call it local politics. Call it the local voice.
Why don't you talk about the most pressing issues you think Bulloch County is facing right now, and maybe limit it to 3?
Limiting it to 3. So I'll start with what I believe is probably the most pressing issue right now, and there's a lot of pressing issues, but if I was going to put one top of the list, it would be our leadership, our elected officials now. Not listening to what the people are saying, not going on the advice of like zoning or people that are giving them advice, people that are put in positions to do studies and give advice. And I think that's our pressing issue is they're getting the pressure from surrounding counties, the pressure from development authorities. I think that's our concern right now. I think we should be worrying about our county and our people and what our people want. And until we can do that, the rest of the issues are going to fall in line. Everybody has, the taxes going up. That hurts a lot of people, especially the elderly around here that they're on fixed incomes. They don't make a lot of money. Now their taxes are up. And it just snowballs effect. We have inflation as it is with the farmer, diesel fuel and the fertilizer costs, and now with the land being taxed more, they're being forced to rent more. So yeah, I'd have to say the leadership and then taxes, and then the third one would probably be infrastructure, because we're really behind right now for the county, I feel, with just our population on infrastructure, let alone the influx of people that we're going to probably start seeing here in the next 2 to 3 years. And it's not going to, it's hard to catch up. It's always better. I had a good saying that somebody told me early on in my military career, and it's better to be proactive than reactive. So.
Do you think it's possible to catch up at this point? And how do we do that, like without a huge influx of money?
Well, you're going to have to cut some money from some things, and that's hard. Trying to figure out where you can squeeze money out of here to put it over here. I think we need to slow down on the subdivisions and slow down on, I'm going to call it unnecessary growth, because really at this point, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. And the only way is to slow down and to go and look into the plan, the comprehensive plan a little bit more. I think they just look at colors. They look at their yellows and they look at their greens or their reds and that. But it's a plan, and when you just say, well, that's in the yellow and we can zone for that, well, there's nothing out in that area yet. You should build from a position outward so you don't have what they call sprawl. And right now, if we keep going the way we're going, we're going to end up with sprawl, and we're going to end up with infrastructure that will never be able to catch up.
Kind of going on the same subject of growth, one of the biggest complaints with planning and zoning is that, there's variances given that are in conflict with the zoning, or they just completely disregard what staff or, what the people want in favor of staff. And there's a balance to strike there with allowing people to do what they want with their property. So as a commissioner, how would you zoning issues? Because if people want to sell their land, they have the right to do that, and it needs to be usable. But if we're trying to protect what Bulloch County is right now, it creates a conundrum.
Correct, yes. And that's a very hard question, and there's probably no correct answer that you can give that everybody would agree with on that. But as far as, I don't like big government telling me what I can and can't do with my land either, but we do have rules and regulations that are in place for the good of the community. So I think that's what you really want to look at, is this good for the community? What might be good for the community might not make the person trying to sell their land happy. Some of this land's been in people's families for generations and generations, and now if they're not farming into that's the retirement package. If somebody's going to offer them a lot of money for it, you really can't blame somebody for taking it. So I think you just have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. What are the effects going to be? Are you going to upset one person because they didn't get to do with their land what they wanted to, where it might negatively affect 10 or 12 people or 30 families around them for the community? So you just have to I think you have to look at every one on its own merit. Listen what what your constituents have to say, um, you know, and give them fair time to do it. I've been to so many of the meetings where, you know, there's 10 minutes on the clock and there's 30 people that want to talk, you know, and you know, the lawyer will get up there and talk for 5 minutes and then reserve 5 minutes and then have a rebuttal at the end, and then not everybody got to speak. So I think that and you can't have meetings that run for 5 or 6 hours, so you have to have timelines. But I think case by case basis, what is it? What's this going to affect? Who's this going to affect? How's this going to affect school districts? How's this going to affect roads? And the zoning commission pretty much lays that all out. So it's not like, as a commissioner, that I would have to do a whole bunch of research. You just have to sit down and read what the zoning commission recommends. And they put a lot of time into it. So, and you should listen to them. That's what their job is. And yes, you might disagree with something, but when it really comes down to it, it has to be case by case, and you are entrusting people on this board or on this committee to make a decision or make a recommendation. And to go against that, the only reason I could see going against that is, well, maybe you're friends with the people selling the land, maybe somebody's promised you something, I don't know. But I would think, unless that zoning commission is split or it's a really close vote, it should almost be listen to what the people have to say, listen to what the property owners or the sellers are saying, and then come up and make a decision.
Do you want to talk a little bit about transparency and whether or not you think the county is transparent enough?
I don't think, I think transparency is the total opposite word that I would use. I would use opaque, because you really can't see what they're doing. And I understand that there are going to be times when they will be forced into signing some sort of non-disclosure agreement where they can't talk about things. But you could tell somebody that you signed a non-disclosure agreement and can't talk about things. But the transparency, they don't, I haven't had any luck communicating with any of them or getting any responses back. I've spoken at meetings and been to plenty of meetings where they won't even look. They're slumped down behind their computers. You can't even see the expressions on their face. They won't comment on anything. So the transparency, I think that is the biggest thing, because you don't know what you don't know. And right now there's a lot of people out there that don't even know what's going on right now, because it's not even really, I won't say being reported on, but not mainstream reported on. So transparency is important, because if you know what's going on, you can form an opinion on whether you like what's happening or not. But whenever things are just, and it's progressively getting worse, and it's once you lose transparency, I think you've lost trust. You should be able to explain to somebody why you've made a decision, or what we're looking at when we're making a decision, or what forced this decision. And transparency, I just think too much is being done behind the citizens' backs, and to where, I mean, the Hyundai plant was not transparent at all. They knew what was coming, but none of us knew what was coming. All it would have taken was a couple town hall meetings to explain what we were up against and what we had to prepare for, and that never happened.
I think a lot of people always want to have lower taxes, whether it's sales tax, property tax, whatever, income tax. But when it comes to the services that Bulloch County residents are getting, do you think that the level or the tax rate for those services is too high, just right, too low? Where does that fall?
Well, I was talking to some of my friends from up north about taxes, and I'm glad that I'm not paying their taxes. So, but when we moved from Effingham out here, and I went from a residential neighborhood to agricultural, so I'm getting a little bit of a better tax break. I was very pleased with what the taxes were going to be, and that didn't last real long. And they went up, and that hurts. I think if we start going any higher, it's really going to be an issue for a lot of people. Not that it's not now. I'm not going to say that our taxes are great. I would say we're probably somewhere right in the middle. That last hike that they did is probably taking us up to the point where it's starting to hurt people, starting to anger people. So I would feel that I think where we're at right now, I'm not going to say is great, but it could be worse, and I feel that it's going to get there rather quickly.
Do you feel like there are things that we should be spending less money on as a county?
I do. I think if you look at everything as a whole, and you take your police and your services, your fire services, and all that, it's hard to cut money from those because that's things that people see a lot, and they count on it. We count on, when you call the police, they're going to come. If your house catches on fire, the fire department's going to come. But within that, there's always something that you can do better or spend your money better on. And I think that's one of the things. I don't want to hit too hard on recreation because I like recreation and I like to be out there, but splashing the borough, and I know that's been talked about before, I looked at last year's budget and I think it was somewhere over about $1 million us taxpayers had to pay because they can't make a profit. And I understand maybe they're not in it to make a profit, but we should at least be breaking even on something like that. Baseball fields and soccer fields and stuff like that, that's going to cost the taxpayers money. That's something that kids are going to go out and do for free, but I mean, we have something that we're charging money for this recreational service, and we can't even break even on it. There's thousands of water parks in this country that make money. I think I think that's the biggest thing. Like, just the numbers don't do it for me. That is a lot of money that can go to a lot of other things.
So are there things that you think deserve more money?
I do. I do think that, I think infrastructure is a big one. And we have the special tax for our roads, and we have a lot of dirt roads. I live on a dirt road, and I don't want my dirt road paved. I like it. My wife likes to ride down the muddy dirt road in her Jeep. And, but with that being said, there are a lot of roads that are paved that need work. We have a bridge still out from the hurricane that's probably not going to be fixed until sometime later this year, if that. And that directly affects me for every week. I wish that bridge was open. So I think money could go more towards that, more towards the infrastructure. And like I says, our police and our fire department, I would say that they need to probably relook their spending, but put the money where it is needed in that, because equipment costs money and cars cost money and this, that. So yeah, if I could take some right away, it would probably be, the splash in the borough, the waste that, how many of our citizens are actually benefiting from that being there? How many, I haven't been to the splash in the borough in probably about 8 years, and I didn't live out here at the time. And from what I understand, the hours aren't real conducive to working families. So that's where I would probably take it from recreation on that side, and take it as a whole, really sitting down with all these departments saying, listen, we have to be able to tighten the budget up and put the money really where it's needed. I mean, companies and corporations are forced to do it all the time.
You touched on it a little bit earlier about people being angry right now. People are frustrated, or just because things are changing for them, and most people don't like change.
Right.
So why in this time would you want this job? Why do you want to be a county commissioner?
I'll go on one key word there, want, because my mom told me there's two things in life, there's wants and needs. And I could be honest with you, I never wanted to get into politics. I never wanted to do any of that. But after seeing what's going on, I feel I need to. And I want to, or I wouldn't be doing it, but I feel that I need to. I feel that somebody needs to step up. For a lot of years, I've seen the commissioners, or I haven't lived here that long, but the commissioners have run unopposed, so nobody has been willing to step up. And it's a thankless job. It's not something that, I don't know why anybody would want it. I don't know, but I want it because I know that I can be fair and I can be transparent, I can be honest with people. And that's what, at the end of the day, if you can be honest with people and do the best you can, and what I don't want is I don't want to be doing this for 15 or 20 years. Matter of fact, I'd like to see term limits, and I'd like to see, David Bennett told me if 2 years was good enough for, or 2 terms was good enough for George Washington, it should be good enough for anybody else. So I'll go with Dave's quote on that. But I want to be a voice, and you know, I've been overseas in the military, and I've seen what dictatorships and third world countries that don't have any voice or any concerns, and the police are running around with automatic weapons, and it's like tyranny. I don't want to feel like that in my own county, let alone my own country, but in my own county, very close to home. So there's a lot of people that are afraid to speak out. I don't know if they think there's going to be retribution against them or something, but to be a voice to the people, that's why I want to do it.
Is there anything else you want people to know about you before we wrap up? I mean, obviously you tell them where they can learn more about you, but if there's anything else that you just want to ask them or let them know before Election Day.
The one big thing I'll say, and I was told this, that I probably wouldn't have a chance because I wasn't born and raised here. And I'll put some credence to that. I was not born and raised here, but I chose to come here, and now I'm choosing to stand up and fight for why I came here. And I've met a lot of people over the years that from Bulloch County, farmers. Like I said, my wife works at Georgia Southern. My daughter works at the library at Georgia Southern. She manages the farmers market. So we're in the community. We're involved with the community. You don't have to be from somewhere to love it. You don't have to be from somewhere to want to protect it. And that's kind of where I want to be. And probably when I go home and I lay down after going out and meeting people and especially the older generation that they've been here and there's roads named after them and they're tired of what's going on and they thank me for at least standing up and trying. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
You're on Facebook?
I am on Facebook. It's Brian Pfund for County Commissioner. I'm messing around with a web page right now, but I'm not as technically sound on that. So I'm still kind of feeling around on that. But yes, and on Facebook, you can be messaging on Facebook, and my phone number is 912-631-8196. Shoot me a text or give me a call. I always answer the phone. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, meet with people. You'll see me out and about a little bit more as everything's getting closer.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time and good luck.
All right. Thank you very much.